Hi guys, welcome to another episode. My name is Naomi Njoroge. I'm a registered dietitian. Today I'm going to give dietary management on diabetes. Diabetes is a chronic condition and actually dietary management is key to this disease. So I've come along with my friend. He can introduce himself.
Hi guys, my name is Ben. Welcome to the show.
So I'm going to start with the foods to avoid when you're managing diabetes. Number one, we have avoid sweetened beverages. When I mean that, I mean things like soda, Lucozade, Ribena, and all those sugary drinks. You should avoid them because they spike your sugar levels.
Are you trying to say I should even avoid the sugar itself?
Yes. If possible, you should take sugar in moderation. But for diabetic people, I tell them try as much as possible to avoid sugar, because sugar is the one that already you have that chronic condition of sugar levels being spiked up. So when you try and add too much sugar in your tea, that one may result to spiking up your sugar levels.
Can you explain some of the foods which a person can take to avoid this sugar level?
So for the foods to take, we have dark green leafy vegetables. These ones include the kales, the spinach, the cabbage, the broccoli. The reason for this is because they contain high fiber, and the fiber actually acts like a net to trap the sugars. So they're actually good for diabetic people.
Does this mean I have to take only greens?
No, you don't have to take greens. The other thing that you can take whole grains. Food like the brown bread, if the brown chapati, the brown rice. If it's ugali, the one that has not been brand off that part of the seed. You know, when for sifted, it has not been sifted, you get?
The one
it's whole.
For the luyas and stuff.
Yes, that one is actually very healthy because the brownies, the whole grain, contain high fiber. That fiber stays in your body. It prevents you from eating too much. And you see, for diabetic patients, if you don't eat too much, your sugar levels doesn't spike up high.
But there was this time I had an uncle who was diabetic. That man used to eat too much. He could go to an hotel and ask for maybe 10 chapatis to 15, like a lot of food. What is the problem with diabetic and eating?
With appetite?
Yes, what's the problem?
I don't think there is any correlation.
They eat too much.
They eat too much and it's very unhealthy.
So they should be controlled. They
should be controlled, and actually that's the point. After we'll explain about the diabetic plate model, how it's supposed to look. Okay. Before we finish up on this, for the foods to take, we said on fruits. Diabetic patients should be very careful on the fruits they take. You should take at least avocado. There is a kiwi fruit for diabetic patient, and then melon. Those are the only 3 fruits allowed for diabetic patient: kiwi fruit, don melon, and avocado. But that one does not mean you make a salad. You're supposed to take at least today, take a piece of avocado, tomorrow take a piece of don melon, the other day maybe you can take a piece of kiwi. Because when you take too much, fruits contain a sugar called fructose. That is the natural sugar in fruit. When you take too much, the sugar tends to spike up in your body. So you need to minimize the fruit you take, despite the 3 fruits I've said.
In short, you're supposed to lower any amount of level of sugar in your body.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether it's from fruits.
Yes, yes. Like for foods to avoid, you should avoid the white bread, the white rice, the white chapati. Those are you also avoid the refined sugars. Yeah. Those refined sugars are like the biscuits, the cakes, sweets. Those sugary drinks. The other thing that you can avoid is things like pineapple, watermelon.
Is honey included in that?
Honey is also included.
But honey might be natural.
No, actually that's a very good question, because people ask me it's sugar but it's natural. Yeah. But sugar is sugar. It doesn't matter if it's natural or not, because it's sweet. Yes, it will definitely spike up your sugar levels. So even for those who say I won't put sugar in my tea, I'll use honey, I think it's the same case. If you can try and avoid taking too much sugar, the better.
So you want us to drink tea without sugar?
The better, if you're especially diabetic. Even for other health cases, for a normal person who doesn't have diabetic, even tea without sugar is still okay. But for those specifically who are diabetic, taking tea without sugar is the best thing to do.
Are you doing that?
I'm not diabetic. I'm not doing that. I use maybe 2 tablespoons, and I'm okay with that.
Very nice.
Then there is that part of diabetic plate model. It's very key. Like when you're trying to, for a patient who is diabetic, their plate model is like half should be the vegetables. I think I should show them using this picture. Like half of them, you see this plate, so like half of it is veggies. The other half is divided into 2, yeah?
What is this? This chips or
Actually,
something?
this chips is not supposed to be here. This one is bad, is it photocopy? It was an error. This chips is not supposed to be here. So these are carbohydrates. These are part of carbs. They're supposed to take whole grain carbs. The ones I told you, like ugali, brown rice, brown ugali, the brown chapati. This is the part to include those whole grain. Then the other one, we have the protein. We have 2.
Which protein is this? This is
This fish.
Fish,
Yes, this fish. We have 2 types of protein actually. We have animal protein. We have like, for animal protein we have fish, chicken, we have pork. And then for plant, that's when you can take peas, lentils, what else? Ndengu. Those are plant proteins. You should include them in this part. The other thing, avoid the deep fried because they contain too much fat. If it's fish, maybe cook in the normal way. Don't deep fry.
What do you mean normal way?
Like you buy
boil
fish,
the
you can boil and then you
fry. But you have already deep fried the fish.
No, you can actually like boil the fish and then you can do the, is it frying? You don't have to necessarily deep fry it.
Fry, yeah?
Yes, okay. To avoid too much fat in it. And then for fruits, sometimes for diabetic patients, they turn hypo. Hypo, I mean the sugar levels go down. The moment your sugar levels go down, you're at least supposed to take a piece of a banana. You're allowed.
How does banana help in that?
Banana is high in sugar. That's why I told you, if you're diabetic, try and avoid the fruits because they'll spike up your sugar. But that means when your sugar levels is low, try and use the banana to rise up your sugar, because even when you're hypo, it's not right.
So are you advising people who are taking fruits too much to reduce?
Actually, for fruits, the people who tell me, I prefer taking a fruit smoothie than a vegetable smoothie. But I'll tell for everyone, try and increase your vegetable smoothie. Vegetable smoothie includes, maybe use the cucumber, the carrots, the vegetables, the spinach to make a smoothie rather than using too much fruit, because that too much fruit contains too much sugar. The sugar itself is fructose. It may make you even add weight, even for those who are losing weight, because being overweight is one of it worsens the diabetic case. So if you tell someone to take too much of the fruit smoothie, they continue adding weight. I'll tell them take too much of the vegetable smoothie. That one helps in reducing weight, and it's good for, like, even if you're taking the diabetic medication, it's good for effectiveness of the insulin. So the diabetic plate model is very key. You have to know, like, half veggies, the other carbs, quarter of it, and the other one proteins, and then you take a lot of water. Like you take 8 glasses per day or 3 liters per day is okay for you.
Okay, how would you advise someone who is already in diabetic condition?
Yeah, like there are 10 ways, 10 natural ways that can help you control diabetes. Number 1 is physical activity. That one makes you lose weight and the insulin becomes more effective. The other thing is implement portion control. That is very key. Portion control, I've already illustrated using this. Portion control is key because the too much food you take is converted into sugar.
But if this person is not already full, then you are trying to minimize this person's food, like he is used to taking this amount of food. Then now you are trying to cut the amount of food that he is being used to taking.
Yeah, I understand.
So how would you deal with that? Because diabetic people are used to eating a lot.
Yes.
How would you?
The thing is, for this diabetes, the portion being illustrated of having more veggies makes you feel full, so it avoids eating too much. That's the key thing about it.
Okay.
Because it contains fiber, it makes you, and vegetables contain fiber, and they also contain high water content.
Alright.
So when you eat too much of this, like I've told you, it makes your vegetables stay in your stomach for a long time, so you don't eat too much. That's at least the best part of the diabetic. Then the other way to control your blood sugar levels is you take a lot of water, and then reduce the intake of carbohydrate intake. Reduce intake of carbs. When I say carbs, that's when I told you use the whole grain carbohydrate, because they make you feel full. It avoids you from eating too much. Because when you're used in taking things like white bread, white rice, white chapati, they're simple carbohydrates. There are two types of carbohydrates. There is simple carbohydrates and there is complex. Complex stay in the stomach for a long time, prevents you from eating. Those are the whole grains I told you. And then the simple are the ones like white rice, white bread, and those are the ones we are trying to avoid, because when you take too much of them, they are converted to sugar, and then sugar spikes up. So you control your carbohydrate intake. The other thing is increase your intake of vegetables. As I say, yes,
kind of
dark green vegetable like spinach, cabbage, broccoli, because of their high fiber and their high water content, is very essential.
You mean they should take them, but in low content?
No, increase intake of vegetables. Whatever you're supposed to reduce is carbohydrate. Reduce carbohydrate, increase vegetables. Yes. You get the point?
No, you said something different.
I said reduce.
You said reduce vegetables.
Oh, then that was a mistake. I meant increase the intake of vegetables and reduce the intake of carbohydrates.
I think now you're
yes.
Continue.
And the other thing we have is, I talked about physical activity. It makes you more active and not to gain a lot of weight. The last one, I can talk of people should take key note of monitoring their blood sugar levels. We have a machine. Yes. We have a machine.
What is the name of the machine?
Glucometer. We have the glucometer machine.
Where can they get it?
In the chemist.
How much does it cost?
Around 3,000.
Only?
Yeah, only. I advise those diabetic patients, it's very crucial you have that glucometer at home, because it's wrong when you use insulin. Let's say you're using insulin and you're not aware you're hypoglycemic. No, you're not supposed to use insulin when you're hypoglycemic. You only use insulin when you're hyper, when your sugar levels are high. And the only way to know if your sugar levels are high or low is when you use that machine called the glucometer.
So when you're using the machine,
yes,
how do you know whether you are hyper or hypo?
The ranges. So
which range is hypo, which range is
around
hyper?
From 3.5 to 7.5, that is the normal range. Anything above that, you be turned hypo. I think in the next video, I'll illustrate on the correct usage of a glucometer. We shall illustrate here for our viewers, because it's very key to know how to use the glucometer, how people use it wrongly, and the best machine to use. You know, there are many brands, but I think there's a certain maybe brand that maybe a medic can recommend you to use. We shall do that video. I won't say specifically which one I recommend, but I think when you're doing that video, so that people can watch that video, we'll illustrate the whole story on how to use the glucometer for those diabetic patients. I think we have covered the whole story on foods to avoid, foods to take, 10 easy ways to control diabetes, and how important a diabetic plate model is to those who are diabetic. So I think this one comes to the end of our video on this. Make sure you share, you like, you subscribe as you wait for the next video on how to use a glucometer properly. Subscribe to this channel.